One of the most important elements of literature would be symbolism, things with deeper meaning beneath the surface. We've all had to read these symbolic books at some point in school. To Kill a Mockingbird uses the mockingbird to represent the innocent. Animal Farm itself is a symbol for the Soviet Union. But, in my opinion, none of these books hit on symbols as cleverly or as clearly as Lord of the Flies does. Lord of the Flies was author William Golding's first and most famous novel, released in 1954 after going through several publishers. The premise of the book is as follows. A plane, carrying a large group of young boys, suddenly crashes on an island in the middle of nowhere, killing the pilot and leaving them stranded alone. The boys must now work together to survive and to hopefully be able to escape the island. Now, this wasn't a new concept at the time. Plenty of other books about people being stranded on an island have been written before, such as The Swiss Family Robinson in 1812 or The Coral Island in 1858, which was actually referenced in Lord of the Flies. However, instead of writing an upbeat adventure novel where everyone cooperates and succeeds and are happy in the end, Golding subverts the reader's expectations by exploring what boys would really do without adults to stop or control them, and he doesn't hold back with his commentary on human nature. The traditional castaway formula is thrown out the window as the boys also have to deal with their separate priorities, power struggles, and a beast that may or may not be living with them on the island. Now let's get to what I think of the book. Fair warning, there will be spoilers ahead, so if you have not read the book, go read it now or click here to skip to my final verdict of the story. The novel is brilliantly written. One of its winning points is its use of symbolism to create an allegory that represents modern society contained in the small setting of a deserted island. It's pretty clear that this island is meant to be a microcosm, a small-scale representation of the world. Each and every one of the main characters is used as a symbol for a facet of the greater outside world. The main character Ralph, for instance, represents civilization and order on the island with his calls for meeting and use of the conch. Opposing him is Jack, who has a much more vicious and impulsive personality. He represents the darker side of human nature, with his power-hungry actions and his fixation on hunting and killing revealing his inner savagery. These two characters act as foils for each other, both showing very different forms of leadership. Ralph's leadership, for instance, is much more democratic and gives everyone a voice, while Jack, after splitting from Ralph's group, rules his tribe in a much more authoritarian fashion. Couple this with other characters such as Piggy, who represents science and intellectualism, Simon, who represents altruism and purity, and Roger, who represents cruelty and savagery, and you get a pretty interesting model of the larger world around us. I could go on and on about the different objects that act as symbols, or dive into depth about what each symbol means exactly, but there's way too much to talk about. And that's what I love about this book. There are so many deeper meanings to everything that you can just spend hours and hours taking apart. This makes the book extremely rereadable as well, and you can notice new details and new ideas every time. Now, the characters are already excellent as symbols, but they're quite memorable and distinct in their own right as well. Ralph is an exceptional example, being one of the most developed and important characters of the story. Naturally, the book would want to make their main characters at least some degree of relatable to the reader, and William Golding does an excellent job of developing Ralph. Although he seems ignorant and even acts as kind of a bully to Piggy at the beginning, his dynamic change throughout the story helps the reader sympathize with him as he grows more mature. By the end, his final epiphany, realizing that the true beast inside everyone had torn the group apart, hits the audience just as hard as it hits Ralph. We're able to relate to him because William Golding has defined Ralph's characters, and it's changed to the point that his loss of innocence seems very real, even if you've never been in a situation similar to Lord of the Flies before. Despite the amazing allegory, symbolism, and characters in the novel, it does have some issues, which are mostly minor nitpicks, but issues nonetheless. First of all, the scenarios that the boys are put through feels extremely contrived. How is it that a plane crashes onto an island and it yet only kills the pilot? Not a single kid was even scratched from the crash. And did no one think of going back to the plane for check for any supplies? It's not like the plane was completely destroyed, otherwise, well, none of the kids would have survived. Also, what are the odds of a dead parachuter dropping onto the mountain at just the right angle to fool the kids into thinking it was a beast? I mean, right as Ralph, Jack, and Roger made it to the top of the mountain, the wind blew the head of the corpse up so it looked like the beast was raising its head. Although I do understand that the beast is intended to be a symbol, the obscene number of coincidences that caused this to happen just make the entire situation seem ridiculously improbable. Another small problem I have is that the first few chapters drag on for a bit too long. While the pacing of the latter half of the book is perfect, the long, detailed character descriptions of chapter 1 combined with Golding's unorthodox writing style leaves for a slightly awkward reading experience. Many of the details mentioned in the first few chapters are totally irrelevant to the rest of the story anyways, so it's definitely possible for Golding to at least shorten the first bit and put more emphasis on the latter half of the story. One last nitpick. Piggy's glasses couldn't have lit the fire. Piggy was wearing glasses for nearsightedness, judging by the fact that he couldn't see if his glasses were off. However, these glasses are unable to cause a fire. Sunlight needs to be refracted through convex lenses in order to create a fire, which would include things such as a magnifying glass or reading glasses for farsightedness. Piggy's glasses, which are nearsighted glasses, use concave lens. I'm willing to give Golding a bit of artistic license on this one, however, as the point of the glasses is to be a symbol for technology and innovation. The exact science behind the glasses isn't really relevant, although it would have been nicer if the entire story was scientifically correct. Overall, I would rate this book a 9 out of 10. The use of allegory and symbolism allow the novel to show its theme of innate human cruelty in an exceptional manner. The compelling characters, tense conflict, and driving plot work together to deliver an amazing story. Sure, the story drags on in a few parts and there are a few scientific inaccuracies, but they hardly distract from the story itself. William Golding's Lord of the Flies is an excellent subversion on a popular genre and teaches a memorable lesson on the true nature of human beings, and I would definitely recommend it.